Italian Wine Podcast. Chin Chin with Italian wine people.
Hello, this is the Italian Wine Podcast. My name is Monty Waldin. My guest today is Fabian Schwarz from the La Magia winery in Montalcino. Welcome, Fabian.
Hi, hello to everyone. Hello, Monty.
Yeah, you're one of the privileged guests. This is your second appearance on the Italian Wine Podcast, if I'm not mistaken. It's a family winery, and you're the big boss at the moment. Tell me a little bit about your family, because they're not originally from Montalcino, are they?
Yes, exactly. My father is from South Tyrol, so Alto Adige, and my mother is German. And my family, so my especially my father and my grandfather, moved to Tuscany in 79, when they bought the winery. So at that time, I would say it was possible to buy something in Montalcino also for normal human beings, and so they get the possibility to buy this winery, and they, especially my father, which at that time was 28.
So it was actually, I've got a note here saying that La Magia was actually created in 1974, or founded.
Exactly. So Mr. Bartolomei, who was the previous owner, he got the idea to plant 15 hectares, let us say, in front of Sant'Antimo, and then he died 78. So the family wanted to sell it. So that's why then my father bought the winery. In fact, they asked my father if he knew someone in Alto Adige who could be interested, because also at that time people from Alto Adige was a little bit richer. So they asked in this sense my father, and then he saw the property, he saw how beautiful this place is, and so they decided yes.
Just obviously we got a video link, and so nobody watching will have any idea of how stunningly beautiful your vineyard is. When you walk out into your vineyard and you look down the hill, towards the hills as well, down into the valley, what do you see? Just try and be artistic and tell us how fantastic the view is. It's spectacular.
So the nice thing is that first of all, you have the big mountain in front of you, which is the Monte Amiata, but just before the mountain, you have Sant'Antimo and Castelnuovo dell'Abate, and that is let us say if you only look on the right or straight on, but then if you move a little bit on the left side, you also see Castiglione d'Orcia. So you have all the Orcia Valley in front of you, and that's obviously very, very, very beautiful place in this sense. And to be artistic, it's every time difficult to make the description, because also depending on the season is changing a lot. No, so you have during the spring everything is green, so you have one idea, and then at the beginning of the summer you start to see a lot of fields yellow, which is very common. It's very, very beautiful.
Yeah, when Fabian says Castelnuovo dell'Abate, that's one of the small villages within the commune of Montalcino. And Sant'Antimo is a religious abbey. It's a spectacular building, and it's still inhabited by its religious followers. And it's one of the biggest draws in Tuscany, I think, in terms of, obviously outside of Florence, for tourism and just beauty, as you say. So, you were born into a winemaking family? How did you take to studying wine when you were a young man, knowing that you would take over the winery at some stage?
Yeah, let us say that when I was 14, and you have to decide in which school you want to go, I didn't know really what I wanted, but for sure I wanted to go away from to go outside from Montalcino, and so I watched a little bit the schools which I could go, and so I saw that this was one winemaking school in Italy, which was the most prestigious winemaking school, and in San Michele all'Adige in Trento. And so I said, yeah, why not? So I'm going very far away from Montalcino, 400 kilometers, and so I decided to go there. And then on the school, during the school, I meet a few people which bring me to the passion on making wine and all about the wine world more than what I had at home. So it was a period which was very, very important for me, especially, let us say, from not between 14 and 16, not so much, but after that, it was very, very important for me.
Okay, so Fabio, you did your study and you trained, I'm sure, with your father. How did you take to it? Obviously, the studying environment is one thing, but running the winery and having lots of responsibility, were you happy with that? Were you a little bit nervous? Were your parents nervous?
I don't know. It's yes, I would be. I was obviously nervous, and in this sense. But let us say that after school, my idea was not to work at the same moment at home, but my idea was to travel around the world, see how it works. And unfortunately, at that time, my father asked me to come back home because two of the employers left. I had to stay at the winery. And the problem is when you start to work in your own winery, then it's difficult to go away, you know. So, in fact, what I did I went to Australia and to Argentina to make two harvests, and that because of that during the winter time it was not I could not work, let us say like that. And then at the beginning, obviously, it was something where I was a little bit nervous when I was making the wine. I would say not in the first years, because at that time we still had the winemaking consultant. But then between 2008 and 2009, me and my father together, we decided that I could try to do it by myself, all the wine process. And so the first, let us say, 2 years were a little bit more difficult, and I was a little bit more nervous. But then year after year, I find my way to work. Fortunately, I had also some old friends from school, which when I have some problems, I can call them. How they call me, it's the same. Also, that's the nice part of the winemaking. Also,
Yeah, I mean, everybody needs just a confirmation every so often. Did I do it right? What did you do? What would you have done? But it's good that communication in Montalcino itself was not always been fantastic. It has improved, I think. But with younger people like you, who are a little bit more open-minded, shall we say, things have definitely changed for the best. Now, obviously, it's a family estate. How do you farm? Are you conventional? Are you organic? Are you biodynamic? How do you do it?
no, we are organic. We are certified from 2012. And in fact, you know, Monty, that normally when you ask for the certification, you have 3 years of conversion. And we asked 2012 when, in fact, my father retired and I took over the winery, because he was never interested to have the certification because it was too much bureaucracy for him. And so when I asked for the certification, I told them, okay, wait, I can show you that it's 10 years that we work in an organic way. So I bring them all the invoices. They make the analysis of the soil and everything, and they saw yes, it's probably true. And so I get the certification from the first year, which is something which is very, very unusual.
It's good that you did that as well, that you could, and it's good that your father kept all of the records and could show that. And because it's obviously now become almost, I mean, do you think people are more open-minded about organics these days, either producers or journalists or even members of the public?
Oh, definitely, yes. I mean, today it's something which it's very, very important. And who is organic, who is sustainable in this sense also. Because to be organic, it not means only to be organic, to use only the organic product, but it means also to be sustainable to the environment, find the right balance in your environment. So it's because of that, I think it's more and more important, and a lot of people it's looking on that. And I think a lot of farmers and also wine producer or growers, they see that the most of the time can do it in organic way, you know. And you know that I think that, for example, Montalcino could be 100% organic probably, or let us say 95% organic, and without losing quantity and quality and quantity in this sense. So sometimes it's also you have to know that you want to do it. It's that's also we have to. I mean, if we look to Montalcino, when I get the certification 2012, we were, I think, 20 producers which were organic. I think now we are more than 80, and I think more than 50% of the vineyards in Montalcino are organic. So that's, I think, a lot changed in this sense, and I'm happy about that. So.
Yeah, of the five biggest estates in Montalcino that have a disproportionate size of vineyards, 3 of those are now certified organic, which 10 years ago, 15 years ago wasn't really the case. And obviously there's a lot of smaller producers like you have made that step. It's like the domino effect, I think. They see what you do, for example, and they say, oh, these vines are actually healthier than they were before, and it's maybe not such a bad thing to do. So that's a very positive thing. In terms of the vineyard management, how big is your vineyard, and what particular techniques, like cover crops, for example, or what do you do in the vineyard to make it look so nice and make such great grapes?
So we have 15 hectares. It's all Sangiovese. What we do, it's nothing strange in this sense. We use obviously a little bit of copper and a little bit of sulfur for the diseases, but for the rest we sow cover cross, and we try to give organic substances in a very natural way in this sense. And I think I can say that in the last 10 years we find out a good way in this sense. Obviously, how I told you before, we try to get the right balance in the environment now. So, for example, 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, almost 15, we had the problem with the yellow spider eating the leaves, and a lot of wineries were using pesticides, which in fact were not. They worked at the moment, but then next year you have even more spiders. So what we decided to do is to find a different way. So in fact, we stopped to work with the powder sulfur, and so we get again the good insects which were eating the spiders. And in fact, after 3-4 years, we stopped the problem. So I think it's the most intelligent way. So to work in the vineyard, it's not every time easy, but we have to try.
What about inter-row? Do you use sow cover crops? Do you leave indigenous plants between the rows over winter, for example?
So what we try to do in the last years, it's to use between the vines. I don't know how you call that in English. Trifoglio nano.
So that's a clover.
Yeah, but it's very little, so it's you don't have to cut it, and you don't have to work under the rows. So that's an easy way to don't use chemicals. Or also, if you work mechanically between the vines, the problem is every time that you lose some vines, some plants, because you are working too hard. So it's if we can control the grass under the vines with this kind of plants, which it would be perfect. So we are trying. It's on some parts it's working, on some part not, but
it's keeping out the weeds. It's colonizing. You're choosing what you want to colonize the interrow. You're not going to have to mow it every 5 minutes and compact the soil. Shields the soil from the heat of the sun. And when it does rain, you get no erosion because the little leaves block the water, and then the water can gently go on the ground and not, really, really kill the ground. And I imagine that's pretty cost effective as well.
It's the biggest cost is at the beginning. After that, in fact, it's even could be better. No, it's because then you don't have to use the tractor. You don't have to do a lot of work. I hope that it will work like that. So it's because, like you were saying before, or the biggest thing in how you can avoid the compact of the soil. So that's the hardest work on that. So
you mentioned Mount Amiata at the beginning of the interview, which is the highest peak in this part of Tuscany. And your vineyard sort of slopes down, has the mountain right in front of it. How important is that to conditions in your particular vineyard? Why does it help?
So yes, it's the Monte Amiata. It's very important because, in fact, we are at 500 meters, so between 420 and 500 meters to have this slope. To have it's very important because you are looking south, and so you have first of all you have the sun effect, because all our vineyard take the sun from the early morning until the late evening. That's obviously important for the maturation, for a good climate, and also to avoid the thing that we are quite high. So when it's going to be cold, it can be very cold now at 500 meters. So to have the sun, it's obviously very important. And the other thing is that because we are more on top of the hill, so it's important because the air, it's moving a lot. So you have every time, let us say it's every time moving a little bit. And so you don't have problems of mildews, and because you don't have so much humidity. So in fact, that's also very, very important to be on top of the hill or not at the bottom. It's, in this sense, it's very important.
Okay, I've got a boring technical question about Portinesti rootstocks. You changed the rootstock that was being used, which was 5BB Coba, and now you're using 110R, yeah? Why did you change?
Because that's very technical, because the Coba was the old, where they were using during the 70s, and it's a rootstock which it's pushing a lot on the plant. Exactly. And the other one, instead, it's a rootstock which is, let us say, technical better. And it's the good thing is that it's going quite deep. It makes so that the plant, it's the maturation, especially it's more at the latest part of the season. So that's why it's also important to use the new ones. Obviously, in the 70s, they didn't have so much knowledge about the rootstocks. Today, we have more and more knowledge about the rootstocks, so we can decide which one is better for our soil and which one not. So I think Coba, nobody is more using Coba in Montalcino.
Yeah, but you have a very interesting position because, as you say, you're very high up, you're very solar, you get a lot of weather, but you have a slope, you have air movement, you have the brightness and the warmth as well. And so what you're saying is you're trying to let those vines ripen as slowly as possible without not ripening at all, and getting more freshness into the wine, which makes, I guess, winemaking a little bit more easy. So what about the winemaking and the aging of the wine?
About the aging, it's after the fermentation, where we are lucky because, especially on the Brunello, we work with the old vines, so with 40 years, which are still from 74, so more than 40 years. So we can have very high extractions. So we stay on the skins until 45 days in some vintages. After that, we move in the oak. We normally stay, let us say, between 2.5 and 3 years in oak. We use 500 liter barrels of French oak. Every vintage becomes about 1/3 of new oak. So obviously the fact to have every time good acidity, because we are high, that's allowed us to work in an easy way. We can be a little bit less protected. So, for example, let us say in a vintage where the sanity is good, which is, let us say, a normal vintage, we never use sulfites until the end of the malolactic fermentation. So it's very easy in this sense to work. Also because you have this acidity, you have pH which are never more than 3.5, and that obviously help a little bit.
Yeah, that gives you it's like a safety net, doesn't it? It's but it must be nice that when you having that particular terroir, because it really is a very, very distinct terroir in Montalcino, that in some ways, I'm not saying that you can relax, because you can never do that as a wine grower, but you've got that kind of those building blocks that you know that they're going to be there for you in the winemaking, and that must give you at least a few less sleepless nights during the winemaking. You can relax a little bit and have a barbecue during the harvest, rather than just praying that everything is going to work, right?
No. That's true. That's true. I have to say that the biggest part it's coming from the vineyard. To pay attention to not make too big mistakes. So that's like that. But and also in the cellar, the thing that everything is here, so that we have all our vineyards are around the cellar. It's also very important because from when we pick the grapes until we have it in the cellar, it's never more than 45 minutes. So
Okay, tell us about the wine. Is it called Ciliego? Ciliego, that's a Brunello. Tell us about that. It's a very small production wine, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. It's our single vineyard wine. In fact, it's one part of our old vineyard, and it's called the Ciliegio because we have two cherry trees in the middle of our vineyard, and between the two cherry trees, we every time produce our best grapes. Cherry tree in Italian, it's Ciliegio, and so we decided. So in with the vintage 2010, I decided, okay, from that part, I wanted to arrive until the bottle separately. Let us try with with one barrel. We started with one barrel, and now we make two barrels. But in fact, from that part of the vineyard, we get about 10 to 20 barrels, and at the end, I take the 2, 3, or 4, which I prefer, and I try to make the right mix, and then we bottle only 2 barrels, so we have only 1,000 at the moment, 1,100 bottles.
Final question about, we've gone backwards, but the Rosso di Montalcino. Do you think, I mean, you make a really delicious one, very juicy and fruity and very hard to put down. Do you think Rosso di Montalcino is underestimated by people in Montalcino and by the market?
It's very difficult to answer because it's very difficult to answer because it's the problem. It's how, in my opinion, it's not undervalue, or we could value a little bit better, but at the end, it has to be wine which don't have to be like the Brunello. The problem is that we never speak about the Rosso. We every time speak only about the Brunello. That's a little bit the problem. And the nice thing is that when you have when the market is going good for the Brunello, then it's also going good for the Rosso. When the market is going bad for the Brunello, it's going bad also for the Rosso. It's impossible to sell the Rosso. So, the thing is that obviously the consortium, also all we producers, we are not spending too much time and money to promote the Rosso, but we promote a lot the Brunello. So that's the biggest problem for the Rosso. But in fact, the Rosso, it's a little bit the little brother of the Brunello. So it's the other problem is that a lot of everyone it's doing have his idea of the Rosso. The idea of the Brunello, it's very clear now because you have very strange rules also on the Brunello. On the Rosso, you can do however you want. So there are some wineries which are aging the Rosso also more than 2 years, so like a Brunello in oak, and then they are wineries which are doing only stainless steel. So it's you have very, very different Rossos di Montalcino. In my opinion, by myself, I think that the Rosso should be more wine for every day. It don't have to be like, you don't have to feel that a too long aging period. It have to be a wine for every day, and it's maybe a little bit simpler than the Brunello, obviously, and obviously it has to be very drinkable. Drinkable, I mean that it's a wine which, when you drink it, you want another glass, and you don't say, okay, maybe it's better in 2 or 3 years. It has to be good at the moment. That have to be the Rosso di Montalcino, and then I think if we work on that. If everyone would work on that line, it would be not a problem to sell it, and it would be also more important. But the problem of the Rosso, it will every time be that it's the number 2. So That's the biggest problem. So,
all right, Fabian, really nice to talk to you. A great interviewee, fantastic terroir, very, very approachable wines, very clear, very precise. I really enjoy your wines, and
thank you.
keep up the good work.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
And I'll see you in Montalcino.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.